The way that we talk about transformative mediation, for me, it's perfectly accurate to say that my job as a transformative mediator is to help you have whatever conversation you want to have. Period. When people are feeling like the other person needs to know just how hurt they are, or just what a slime ball they think the other person is, I'm happy to help with that conversation. When they want to say, okay, we've got some stuff to figure out, we've got some money, only so much money to go around, and we need to divide it up, and they want to have that conversation, I get to help them with that. So all of that theory that underlies the transformative model provides the basis for my comfort with purely supporting the conversation, but when it comes right down to what I'm actually doing, I'm doing nothing fancier than just supporting the conversation, assuming that these folks are the ones who are in the best position to know what they want to say to each other, and whether they want to have the conversation and how they want to have the conversation. And my job is merely to support that, largely by providing reflections of what I hear them saying and summaries of the bigger picture of what I hear them saying, and then checking in with them constantly to make sure that to kind of remind them that it's their conversation and they get to do what they want. Well, so the question arises, what is it that inspires me to want to sit there at the ugliest moments of conflict, and why, as a mediator, I would want to do that? Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think that part of the rationale for the transformative mediator supporting the conflict in its full ugliness and going ahead and reflecting and allowing, supporting, showing no negative judgment of people when they are saying really vicious things to each other. Mind you, we're tuned into the other person and supporting them and saying whatever they want as well, including, hey, I'm not going to listen to that, or hey, I'm out of here. We support that as well. But the rationale for really being okay with parties having their conflict in its full ugliness is basically the idea that conflict is that ugly. It really, that is the true nature of it. We're doing nothing to actively pour fuel on the fire. We are supporting them and saying what they want to say. And so if the result of us sitting there and saying, so what do you want to say to each other, is that people say really angry things to each other, we feel like, okay, this is a good place for this to be coming out. I put on a training recently where we were watching a video of a transformative mediator, and the conversation between the parties got quite escalated, and one of my participants said, how can the mediator just sit there while they're getting all escalated like that? And I was pretty pleased with my little line, which was, you think that's bad? I once knew a couple of people who sued each other. In other words, you know, the idea being that, yeah, this looks ugly for 10 minutes, and these people are saying some harsh things, and you know, people who subject themselves to, for example, a lawsuit for months and months of their lives and all the cost there, they might never have this 10 minutes of ugliness, but instead they have a much longer period of perhaps even more difficult consequences to deal with. And so we don't find it helpful in transformative mediation to say that, okay, no, in this conversation we must speak politely, or we must follow certain ground rules that the mediator imposes about how it's going to happen. To the extent the parties want to set their own ground rules, that's fine, as long as they are in control of those, beautiful. But we don't come in with any assumption that they need to avoid name calling or avoid blaming. When people are in the midst of conflict, we assume that the blaming and the name calling is an important, essential part of their story. And if they're going to get to a better place with it, and you know, we do, I'd say even we transformative mediators harbor the hope for people to get to a place where they're no longer having that ugly of a conversation, but we don't claim to know when that should happen or just how ugly is okay. Like I say, we support them in leaving at any point if they feel like they are being victimized or abused, or however they want to define it. We support them in choosing to end it and choosing to do whatever they want to take care of themselves around it. But to the extent that two people are with full support for their autonomy, choosing to sit there and have this conversation, we assume there's some merit to it. So that's how we justify our comfort with that. You know, for me, I'd say personally, my upbringing was pretty polite. I feel like my childhood happened to have a particular lack of passion, and so I that's my explanation for why. For me, it's really I do myself personally, and this isn't the transformative model necessarily. This is my personal inclination. I do myself assume that when I see people really engaging passionately, they must be talking about the stuff that really matters to them. And then what's more, I do see these transformations where as a result, or it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily able to define cause and effect, but soon after somebody saying something really angry, the other person, or the person, him or herself, has a shift. You know, when you see how angry somebody is at you, when you see them just letting it all come at you, that is one of the best opportunities to gain insight into where that person is coming from and to gain some understanding for them. Wow, if this person is that angry at me, wow, they must really be hurt. I mean, I see that's genuine emotion coming at me. Wow, I did have an impact on this person. I do now have more awareness of my contribution to the conflict. Or I do have more compassion for this person who's, you know, if they're really angry and they're kind of out of control, I get, even if they're out of control at me, I get some compassion for them. Wow, okay, man, you aren't quite as threatening even when, you know, I'm not as threatened by you. I see you more as a human being, a fellow human being who's wrestling with your emotions. And so that's the recognizing the fellow human being in the other party that can happen, often as a result of the really ugly escalated conversation. That's the transformative stuff we're talking about. You also, I think, asked, you know, why would a party choose to participate in this mediation session where they may hear some ugly words from the person they're in conflict with? Well, a lot of people choose not to participate in a transformative mediation session. So it's not necessarily appealing to everybody. Those who do choose to participate in it, my guess is that they simply appreciate the opportunity to have the conversation they want to have. When I work with people who have been involved in some litigation, they are often, what I hear them describing is an experience where they feel misunderstood, where, you know, some documents were received by the other person, say in a divorce, that said that I wanted sole physical custody of the kids, and this other person got very angry about that, and I was just really following my lawyer's instructions on how we start the process. And so the misunderstandings and the sense that the other person is thinking the worst of me, and my sense that I don't really understand what the other person is thinking based on the communication that I've gotten, you know, third hand through my lawyer about what they told their lawyer. All I know is it's confusing, and it seems like this person is no longer the person I used to know. So simply the chance to have a more direct conversation where the communication will be much more clear, that appeals to a lot of people. I think that one assumption people make about mediation is that it's a process where you've got to be nice, and the goal is you got to go in and be conciliatory and compromising. And it's true that one of the nice outcomes sometimes is that people come up with an understanding and they feel better toward each other. But I also like to offer an opportunity. You think the other person did you wrong? Tell him to his face. You know, I'm going to support you in saying exactly to that other person exactly what they did wrong to you, and if that's how you see it. And you don't have to put it in legally relevant terms. You don't have to spin it in any particular direction. You get to say what it really means to you.